Hey everyone, I'm Will and thanks for checking out this video. I apologise for the slightly clickbaity title, but we are going to look at something that truly is overlooked and not considered too much when it comes to composition in photography, and that is light. And today I've got some example images here from other inspiring artists, some people who make beautiful images and have been for some time. We're going to look at their shots and how light is used in conjunction with the other aspects of composition in order to effectively lead the eye through the photo. And it's my hope that at the end of this video you'll pick up a few insights and be able to apply this to your own photography moving forward. And if you're wanting to learn a bit more about composition, particularly the fundamentals, check out the link below for a tutorial I put together on composition. Okay, let's get into it and start looking at some of our images we've got. Okay, first off the ranks, the pioneer of modern digital landscape photography, Marc Adamus, a friend of mine, and he's just someone who's inspired me ever since I first picked up a camera. Now, looking at this image here, wide angle scene, I shared this sunset with Marc, which makes this image even more special to me. I absolutely love it. You can see here, let's ignore the light for the moment, but compositionally he's used these beautiful little wildflowers there. We have all these different leading lines that are branching out from those beautiful greens in the foreground. And then look at our balance with those main mountains on the back. We have those two large peaks which are off center either side, so it's creating a beautiful sense of symmetry and balance there. And then of course the waterfall in the center or towards the center. And then look at our leading lines on our edges. We have this leading line coming down from the right, one on the lower left as well where that slope runs in, so everything's converging to that center point. And of course, look where the brightest part of the image is, the source of sunlight, bang, exactly around that centralized area where the main subject matter is, where Marc's composition is telling us to lead that way anyway. And then by having the light there, the eye is drawn straight to that scene. So what I'm getting at, guys, is light dictates everything. We are drawn to light as humans. If we are in a dark tunnel and there's light somewhere, we're going to be drawn to that light. Now, when it comes to visual arts, it's exactly the same. The brightest part of the image would typically get the most attention. So the key tip, and as we run through the rest of these images, have a look at where the lightest part is placed. And typically what you want to do is have your viewer, it doesn't have to be dead center, of course, but that centralized section of the frame. Because if you put the viewer's attention in the far corners, the eye is basically going to drift off the edge of the frame. So let's have a look at the next image here that I have from Marc. This one is called Fall. Just one of the greatest Patagonia images ever created. And, you know, this composition has been replicated a few times now, but when Marc first shared this, it was just absolutely mind-blowing. And to me, it still is to this very day. Compositionally, we have Fitzroy and the Fitzroy Massif right there in the center. Look at the framing. We've got the dark mountains on the left and right. And then, of course, this just fantastic tree, which is curving in and guiding the attention back to the center. The clouds are leading lines sweeping in and light. Let's have a look. Where is the light? Bang, right on Mount Fitzroy, exactly where we want the viewer to look. So we've got a dark surrounding and then we're drawn into the light in the center there. So we effectively flow from the darker edges into the light. Incredibly effective. So the first image, Keelan, we were looking at the sun, which is a highly effective way of doing things. Didn't really do that back in the film days because the dynamic range was too big, but it's a very popular way to shoot now in landscape photography. I personally love to shoot directly at the sun because it pulls you into the scene. So that's what we had in the first image of Marc's. Then here we have the sun that is off behind him, but he's using the way it's lit up the mountains there as a source to lead us in. So very common, obviously, to do that with mountain scenes, have the light painting the mountains for you, but then you saw the opposite end where you can look straight at the sun and draw the eye in. Let's jump and change pace now. Warren Keelan, my cousin, and I've got a couple of images here from him. Golden Dusk, slow shutter image on the water, absolutely beautiful. The way that light just shines off the surface of the ocean, it's just gorgeous. Now have a look here. Where is the brightest part? Bang, right there, the centralized area. And that's the way he's composed it on purpose. So if we look at the lower part of the frame, relatively dark with hints of light, same in the upper portion, relatively dark, a few scatters of light. And then towards the center where the actual main subject is, that main body of water that's moving, look at that beautiful golden light there, that is the brightest area. So where do we look? Exactly where he wants us to, straight onto that, on that wave. So the eye just ends up nicely placed around the center of the frame. Beautiful warm tones there. Just a fantastic image that you could look at all day. I've got another one here of Warren's. This one's called Supanova. Absolutely epic. And look at that, just looking straight through the power of the wave. Dark to light. We're getting drawn into that light. And where is he put it again? It's not on the lower edge, not on the top edge. It's towards that centralized area. And of course we have that beautiful shape of the wave, which is curving over. It's just telling us, hey, come on that journey, flow through this image into the light with us. Absolutely fantastic. You can see that obviously if that was placed right up in one of the corners, the eye would get drawn away from the wave of the main subject matter. So wherever that main subject matter is, that's where we have the light. Let's change pace again now. Intimate nature. We're going to pull up here one of the greats, Alex Noriega. Look at this image, you know, this is completely different to anything we've looked at so far. Looking down here on a body of water, we can see some beautiful little sun stars getting reflected off the light. Now, I purposely chose this one because it's a little bit trickier to break down, but once I looked at it and analysed it for a good 30 seconds or so, I could also see it flowing together. The brightest part of the image. Now, the brightness values are pretty much evenly displaced across the frame, but what jumped out to me was the main portion of white is on this right hand third over here, and to me that is essentially the main subject. That's where the eye is getting drawn in. There's a few reasons for that, but I believe one of them is because it does have that largest area of white. And then compositionally it's just brilliant because he's got this flow which is swooping around and then curving in. It's like a vortex spiraling in there, like a galaxy. And then I like the way that there's this dark break that's splitting the lower left from the lower right. And that also is a bit of a gradient that flows into that white portion there. So for me, and I don't know, I haven't spoken to Alex about this shot, but this is the way I interpret it, but I'm drawn into this top right area because of that spiral effect, but then suddenly it's very brilliant. There's just that white portion there, which to me, that's like the eye of the image. We're getting drawn into that section there, and it happens to be essentially the brightest part, more or less, and the most white anyway. Remember, white is light. Another one from Noriega that we've got is Crescendo. Now, a little bit more obvious than the last one, but look at that. We've just got a fantastic sand dune leading line guiding us through the frame, and then he's got a beautiful amount of darkness along that top portion, so we're not drawn up there too much. We can admire the details in the shadows, but then we're drawn back to that, again, the centralized part. Look at that, that center portion of the image, and then the lower half is a beautiful gradient of dark flowing into light. So he's used his framing. Look at this great line that comes in from the top right, pushing us back down into that center, the obvious leading line from the lower right swooping in, and then the leading line from the lower left coming up. So utilizing lines in nature but utilizing light, highly effective. Two more examples for you guys. We're going to pull up here Eric Bennett. Now this one's quite subtle. It's a floral image, and the brightness values, let's have a look here. Beautiful soft edges, and that's another technique as well, utilizing things that are out of focus and things that are in focus. That obviously guides the eye as well. So that's another good one for this Bokeh. Now those two flowers in the middle there, evenly balancing the frame out, and essentially the brightest part of the image, and more or less the only part that's in focus. So we've got a lot going on here. We've got the balance of having those flowers, we have the brightness value in them as well, and then the fact that they're tack sharp and nothing else is. So it's just another way that you can use it. But if you look at the rest of the image, there isn't really anywhere too bright that's pulling the eye away due to that brightness value. So the brightest portion, bang, in the center there, or towards the center anyway. Okay, another change of pace, one of the greats, Albert Bierstadt. You know, a painting over 200 years old, and do I even need to say anything? Like, look at the transitions from dark leading into light. We've got the beautiful light source in the sky, side lighting those trees, and then we have the river and the green rolling hills, another circular type motion going on there. Think of Noriega's one with the sand dune, that gradient of dark leading up into the light. Incredibly effective. We don't want to have those bright areas right down the edge. Let's get it up towards the center. And this one here again, because we have that portion in the sky as well, we've got a bit of a circular effect going on. So where does the eye remain? In the center. We're not getting drawn off to the edges. So there you go. Something that, you know, as I break it down, it starts to become pretty obvious, but it may not necessarily be something you're paying attention to when you're out in the field. You might just be so caught up in the actual subject matter, your framing, the leading lines, but start to pay attention to where is the light. Let the light dictate a lot of what you shoot and how you shoot it. And sometimes, unfortunately, as I'm sure you're well aware, the light may not always be where you want it to be. And if you can, hopefully you can return or forsake plan A and move on to plan B and just follow the light, which is something that I do so much, and I find it a bit more rewarding that way. Just letting nature speak to you, and you just do the listening, observing, and see what happens. And don't forget that light is always changing, so don't give up too soon, because it could always change in your favor. Anyway guys, thanks for joining this one. I hope you maybe picked up a few little insights there that you can apply to your own photography moving forward. And again, if you want to check out a longer tutorial that I put together on compositions, check out the link below. Cheers.